Alright, let's get down to the first new video. In this video, I'm just going to go straight to it. We're talking about why Vinland Saga, which is in anime and manga, is peak fiction, really. Like, it probably has some of the best writing I've ever read, right? Or I've ever just consumed, just in general, whether that's books, movies, media. It's one of the best. And it's so good that, like, in terms of like my top 10 like anime list, which I may go over in a bit, maybe in the next few videos, it's number 2 in one season. And if JoJo's Bizarre Adventure didn't exist, honestly, I could see Vinland Saga be my favorite anime of all time. Like, nothing captured, nothing really kind of prepared me for the way in which, like, emotionally you'd feel with this anime. And I'll try to talk about it without spoilers. But essentially, when you first see it, right, the first thing you usually see if you see Vinland Saga is you kind of see a fight scene. And so you're kind of used to, you expect this to be about Vikings, right? The idea is that, they're going in, they're going to be killing each other, it's going to be a lot of, like, mindless violence that's fun, probably nice to look at, but nothing serious. And I think that's what the beauty is of Vinland Saga, is that it really does portray itself as more lowbrow than it actually is. And so when you get in there, you get topics about religion, about philosophy, about morality, in very nuanced ways, in ways that really make you think and question. But as well, more than that, though, I think are the characters. I think, to me, when it comes to writing, right, more than the plot, more than the consistency, more than the themes, the characters make a show, any book. Honestly, if the people watching on the screen or reading in the book or flipping through a page can't relate to the characters, I don't think you have your story doesn't matter. No one is gonna give flying what. And it surprised me just how good all the characters were. Like, there were very few characters I didn't like. Even characters that I didn't like in the beginning. Like, there were certain characters who I couldn't stand. By the end of the series, I was rooting for them. And it's so, like, that's how, to me, how, like, mastery crafted is that, like, in the beginning you can hate a character, and then you can go into loving them by the end. Honestly, I said I wasn't going to spoilers. I'm going to spoil it. So if you want to skip past this. So, the basis of the story, you have this character named Thor. He is a top-notch Viking, right? Like, he's untouchable. They're literally on ships going through the seas, and he's jumping from ship to ship, killing the other, Vikings, not even getting touched. And out of nowhere, he just stops. Like, he falls into the water, looks around for just a second, and then leaves. And then they show, 10 years later, he has, like, a daughter. She's, actually more than 10 years later. She has a daughter, she's 16. He has a little boy that's 10. And then he lives a nice, peaceful farm life. And, the first, like, episode or two, you kind of just get to know this is a nice, peaceful farm living, nothing really there. And they kind of tell stories about how they first entered America. That's kind of why the Vinland Saga is there. But the kind of purpose of that is it really gets you attached to Thor, and especially his philosophy, right? Because, like, he has a son called Thorfinn, who, on hearing that, like, hey, he basically is getting drafted back into the war, his old war mates find Thor and it's like, hey, you're going to come back and fight for the king. Thorfinn is ready. He's, like, 6, and he's trying to get a knife to go kill. And then Thor is like, who are you trying to kill? And he's like, the enemy. And he's like, you have no enemy. And no one thinks of you as an enemy. And, like, it's that weird philosophy that just kind of, like, encapsulates, like, you have this almost, it's not even really a pacifist, but it's just the way this philosophy kind of clashes with most of the show. Because most of the show is bloody and violent and gruesome. But the thing is, though, is that second episode in, he dies. He gets tricked and dies by a person called Askeladd. Now, and it's crazy because at this point, you see Thor's, who's taken out, he had no sword, he killed nobody, and he was taking out anyone he could. And then he ends up getting tricked, getting assassinated, getting killed. And now you have Askeladd, who basically did the tricking. And you kind of hate him, right? He's kind of a dirtbag. He kills Thorfinn's father. Thorfinn sees that, and it's kind of a story about him wanting to seek revenge. And the way they handle that thing is very interesting. But as you start to see Askeladd, you see the men, you see them traveling, you start to really get related to them. Even after they've done, and it's very interesting because they do gruesome things. Like, they'll kill, like, non-combat, like, people who are just, like, farmers. They don't have any fighting ability. But in order for a tactical reason, they have to kill them. So like, there's like there's no real good or bad in this kind of show. It's just kind of like how war is. But the way they set up the characters is amazing, and I think that's what makes it kind of sets it apart from other shows. Um, I think what also it does is it subverts your expectation. Now this anime is a seinen, and if you don't know the kind of differences, like you see, shonen is typically what there's given to is age ranges for teenage boys. That's kind of the demographic. Seinen is for like older uh, men around like 19s to 20s. Though anyone can read it and watch it, obviously. And about one thing I think is characterization of a shonen or a seinen specifically is that subverting of expectation. Expectation. Um, if you want to know how that happens, I'll spoil this for y'all who want to skip past it. So the story is kind of very fundamentally from the point of second episode onward is about Thorfinn trying to get his revenge on Askeladd while Askeladd is going about, doing fucking Viking shit, going around killing, trying to fight this war, trying to win this war, trying to live the life of a Viking with his men. And you see at the time, Thorfinn arrives and meets with them and basically hangs around them in order to get his revenge. He's around 7, 8. There's a kind of a time skip and he's like 16. And he's got really fucking good at using like his little daggers. That's what his dad is, an alien from his dad. He's really fucking good. But he's not good enough against Askeladd because Askeladd is just smarter and has more battle experience. But every time he goes to say, "Oh, Askeladd, I want to duel so I can win," Askeladd's like, "No," and basically kind of brushes him off. Like he's like, "You're a kid. I don't really have time to deal with you. You need to go ahead." But then he uses him, right? Because he's very skilled. He uses him to go execute people. And says, "Oh, well, if you do this, I'll give you the chance." And the very few times that they do fight, I think it's like twice, Askeladd kind of whips his ass. There's not really even a challenge. And what ends up happening towards the end is that Askeladd dies. But he doesn't die by the hands of Thorfinn. And at the end, Thorfinn is almost like hurt. Like he spends so much time with this person, it almost replaces his father figure, even though he still hated him and wanted to kill him. And you could see that when Askeladd asks him, "What was going to be your plan after you killed me? After I died, how were you going to move forward?" And Thorfinn didn't have a reason. He had no. Everything was so focused and tunnel vision into that one goal. He didn't even think about living outside of that. And I think that was kind of a encapsulates what like a really beautiful story. So honestly, I recommend it 10 out of 10. You should go watch this or read this. It is a very, very good story. It's probably some of the best media out there. Not just anime, not just from Japan, just in general. I haven't seen much out there. And peace.